Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of CookieCast. Today on CookieCast, it's the Latest Out podcast, our NFL podcast. No guest this week. Not for the lack of trying, but the result is there's no guest. Just me and Paul going through the games from last week, games from this week, and a little bit of extra from talking about Thanksgiving. Before we get started, please do consider like, share, subscribe and comment. Leave a review where you can leave a review. Big one there is sharing the podcast. Share it around. If you've got an NFL fan in your life, send them this podcast. They're almost definitely going to thank you for it. Right. Here we go. Let's get started. This is CookieCast. Laces out.
Recording in progress.
Yes, indeed. Recording is indeed in progress, and for those of you watching us on YouTube, you will see that the faces staring back at you on your television screen are two of us, myself and Mr. Andrew Cook, which can tell you only one thing. It's time for the NFL podcast, brought to you by your good folks at the CookieCast Podcast Network. And obviously the fact that there's just two faces in front of you means, sadly, no guest this week. How are you doing, Mr. Cook? How's everything going?
In defence of the guest, I asked a guest if they wanted to bring their week forward. They said no. I was like, okay. And I didn't ask the potential of the guest because technically not their week, so it just resulted in no guest. All will become clear next week when it won't be the guest we have to worry about. Other than that, I'm fine, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, not so bad, not so bad. A little tired for a change. Had to have a little nap before we got started. My wife had to wake me up just to sort of let me know that it was time to get started. So, no guest, but we do have guest predictions, which obviously we'll go to when we get to week 12. Before we get to week 12, we have to go through the details of week 11. In week 11, we had not one, but two guests. So after a slew of weeks with no guests, we were positively dripping with guests last week as Mark and James joined the podcast. Mark for his second, third, possibly even fourth time since we've done the American Football Podcast, but it was James's first time joining us for NFL-based nonsense. You may recognise Mark and James from a Formula 1 podcast, however, available on the network. So, Mark and James came along, provided their predictions, as it were, for the Week 11 games. 14 games in total. 14 games in total, 14 points up for grabs. Finishing bottom of the pile with 8 out of 14 selections correct.
Not bad.
Unfortunately for me, it was Paul Williams. I was let down by the Bengals not beating the Ravens, probably due to someone injuring their wrist and therefore being out for the rest of the season, but I'm assuming we might come to that later on. The Chargers not beating the Packers, the Commanders not beating the Giants, the Seahawks not beating the Rams, the Vikings not beating the Broncos, and the Chiefs not beating the Eagles. So that leaves 3 people for 3 places to contend with. Finishing joint first with 9 of 14 selections correct. It is a 3-way tie for Andy, Mark, and James.
Hang on a minute. How is that even mathematically possible?
I didn't think it was, but obviously James had picked enough games differently where obviously
that is mental.
It is pretty crazy. So obviously, going off last week, Andy and Mark picked the exact same outcome in all 14 games. James had picked slightly differently. So in the event of what we thought might be needed as a tiebreaker, I asked Andy and Mark to give me the total number of points scored across the week. As it turned out, James's predictions were just different enough where there was enough room for error, yes, he ended up with 9 of 14 selections across the board for 3 people. So Andy and Mark were let down by the Chargers not beating the Packers, the Commanders not beating the Giants, the Seahawks not beating the Rams, the Vikings not beating the Broncos, and the Chiefs not beating the Eagles. Whereas James was let down by the Bears not beating the Lions, the Cardinals not beating the Texans, the Titans not beating the Jags, the Raiders not beating the Dolphins, and the Seahawks not beating the Rams. All of his other selections were correct. So yeah, it kind of scuppered our intention for having a tiebreaker, of which, as we've said before, was the total points scored in the NFL Week 11. Mark had guessed at 532. Andy had guessed at 560. And I hate to say it, Andy, but you would have been closest, as the total points scored was 579. So only 19 out. That's pretty,
not bad.
Pretty good going. Yeah, pretty decent. So what's that done for the scores? It's left me on 1.5 points for the season so far. It's moved Andy onto 4 points for the season so far, and moved the guest onto 5.5 points for the season so far. So the week's rapidly running out for me. But it's looking more likely that Andy or the guest will end up being the winner of the predictions from this particular season. Outside of the regular game picks, there was, of course, the side bet, which was picked up last week. Andy picked his 4 teams. I picked my 4 teams. Let's see how we got on with those. Andy had picked the Cowboys to beat the Panthers. Very well done. The 49ers to beat the Buccaneers. Very well done. The Washington Commanders to beat the Jags. And the Los Angeles Chargers to beat the Pals. 2 from 2 for Mr. Cook. He went into the week with 22 points from a possible 40 and moves to 24 from a possible 44. My 4 picks were the Detroit Lions to beat the Chicago Bears, the Miami Dolphins to beat the Las Vegas Raiders, the Jacksonville Jaguars to beat the Tennessee Titans. Can I get the clean sweep? The Seattle Seahawks to beat the Rams. Sadly, just the 3 points from the 4 games selected by myself. I started the week on 28 points from a possible 40 and moved to 31 from a possible 44.
Not all is lost. Not all is lost.
Not all is lost, as we saw last season. That can change in the drop of a hat, as it would seem.
I just take 12 to 14 weeks to get my eye in, and then I'm good, and then I'm steady away from that point.
Yeah, I find it hilarious that obviously I'm ahead in the side bet, yet can't get a win in the actual game picks.
Yeah, it must just be the spread. You can pick the spread, but
yeah, I'm trying to work out if I've actually had a win Oh no, I must have had a win because I got a half in week 5, and then I was on to 1.5 in week 6. So I must have had at least a win, so to speak.
Yeah.
That's week 11 done and dusted from a predictions side of things. However, this week I do understand there is a glorious return of the stats.
So, obviously, there were many apologies offered. So many apologies that were offered that were in the form of, do you want me to try and get the stats now while you're recording before the time you finish the recording? And I said, don't worry about it, we've got 2 guests to get through. I have been assured with, because I did the hilarious, are these stats from this year? And the response I got back was, did you not read the title of the email? And the title of the email is NFL Week 11 Stats 2023. They're brought to us by the Stats Mistress, who was on the Bobby Ball this fine day and had it all done and dusted by lunchtime. They're brought to her by Nate Davis of USA Today. And there's a lot of them, and they're hefty. So let's dive in. First stat of your week is only 4 teams in the league have never reached the Super Bowl. The Cleveland Browns, Detroit Lions, Houston Texans, and the Jacksonville Jaguars. If the season ended today, it doesn't. The entire quartet would qualify for the postseason. This is the first time all 4 of those clubs have had a winning record this late in the season. I don't know if you saw any of the last time the Lions had this many wins and a comparison memes, because oh my, because obviously it was 1960 where the world was a very different place.
Yes, just to clarify, I saw that someone had put an answer to that particular stat in that the last time the Lions were 8-2, black people couldn't walk into restaurants in America.
That's one of the ones I saw. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
That is quite remarkable, and obviously good that we've come a long way since that point in time. So, yes.
Yeah. Stat number 2 for this week is also about the Lions. The Lions, who have never won the NFC North crown, nor ever hosted a playoff game at Ford Field, are 8-2 to start the season for the first time since what I've got here is 1962. I'm sure what I saw was 1960, so I'm not. It's in the 60s, let's put it that way. Again, going back to Detroit. In Detroit, quarterback Jared Goff overcame 3 interceptions in the first 3 quarters and engineered a 17-point final period as the Lions salvaged a 31-26 win against the Chicago Bears, putting his team alongside the Philadelphia Eagles and Baltimore Ravens as the league's only 8-win clubs. In any of recent history, can you imagine that would have been a stat we would have talked about on the podcast? You put in, like, the Lions in the same sentence as the Eagles and the Ravens. It's mental.
It is a bit crazy, but obviously, when you sort of think about all that's had to happen for it to sort of become the case, then it is a bit wild, because obviously it looked like the only chance that Aaron Rodgers wasn't going to be in Green Bay would have been that he would have been retired. And Minnesota have always been that sort of like up and down franchise since I've been watching.
Yeah.
And the Bears, you can tell what they're ever going to do. So it was always a possibility, but it would have taken a lot of things to come to fruition for it to be the case. So
absolutely. Number 4, in Houston, breakout rookie quarterback C.J. Stroud threw for 336 more yards and a pair of touchdowns as the Texans improved to 6-4 with a 21-16 defeat of the Arizona Cardinals. Sorry, James. Stroud matched Joe Burrow's rookie record with 3 consecutive games with at least 300 passing yards. Starting to get the feeling that he may be legit and may want to find his way over to my fantasy team. Number 5. Meanwhile in Jacksonville, the Jaguars, Trevor Lawrence became the first player in team history with multiple passing and rushing touchdowns in the same game, as the AFC South leaders rebounded from an embarrassing Week 10 loss to lash the Tennessee Titans 34-14. I know I always come back to it, but when I saw the Jaguars play live, it was the first time I went, this is actually a good team. This was like last season, I was like, they're a good team, they've just had some really unfortunate games. This season, different story. Good team, good games.
It was weird, wasn't it? Because obviously they had that season where they got to the playoffs and they got to what was it? 40 seconds or so of getting to the AFC Championship game against the Patriots. Then obviously they got braided. But yeah.
My final stat has to be a doozy, and I'm seeing some interesting names in this one. Number 6, been a lot of great quarterbacks in the history of the San Francisco 49ers. Joe Montana, Steve Young, John Brody, Jeff Garcia, Alex Smith, Jimmy Garoppolo, and Colin Kaepernick among them. Sunday, Brock Purdy became the first one to post a perfect 158.3 passer rating in a game that required at least 20 throws. Purdy torched the Tampa Bay Buccaneers by completing 21 of 25 balls for 333 yards and 3 touchdowns in a 27-14 victory. Very good, very good. I'll hand over to you for more tasty stats.
Thank you very much. So, leading on from the good quarterbacks, there haven't been a lot of great quarterbacks in the history of the New York Jets. They lost 32-6 to the retooled Buffalo Bills. Zach Wilson was benched in favour of quarterback 3, Tim Boyle, on a day when the Jets went 0 for 11 on third downs. Jets head coach Robert Saleh wasn't prepared to announce who would be behind centre when his team hosted the AFC East leading Miami Dolphins on Black Friday. I believe that may now have
has changed, and that change
has come out.
That changed
and said that Tim Boyle will be the starter.
Yeah, that changed yesterday, where they said, we're announcing it.
Defensive Player of the Year, Dark Horse. The Dallas Cowboys already have a former one in Stephen Gilmore at the cornerback position, where injured All-Pro Trayvon Diggs also seemed to be emerging as a potential candidate in future seasons. But who foresaw this campaign from sophomore corner Daron Bland, who tied the NFL record Sunday with his 4th pick 6 of the season? New York Giants undrafted rookie QB Tommy DeVito was sacked 9 times Sunday, yet also threw a career-best 3 touchdowns against the Washington Commanders, notching his first NFL win in the process. Washington committed 6 turnovers, its most in a game since 2014, also against the Giants. New York had no giveaways on Sunday. Cowboys rookie kicker Brandon Aubrey has now converted all 21 of his field goal tries, a record to start a career in the NFL. Ironically, he missed his second extra point of 2023 on Sunday. What a damaging week for the AFC North, which was recently on track to become the first division to send all 4 of its members to the same postseason. But season-ending injuries to Deshaun Watson, the Cincinnati Bengals' Joe Burrow, and the Baltimore Ravens tight end Mark Andrews suggest it's far more likely that just 2 of those teams will ultimately advance. It was a good Sunday, however, for Browns defensive end Myles Garrett, arguing the Defensive Player of the Year frontrunner as he added another 2 sacks to push his league-leading total to 13. And my final stat of the week. Total yards in Sunday's Rams-Seahawks game. Seattle had 291. Los Angeles had 267. And all the combined penalty flags, 222.
Wow.
There were more combined infractions, 21, than points scored by either team in the 17-16 Rams victory. That is absolutely disgraceful. I know that penalty yardage is a bit of a strange one, because obviously pass interference flags and things like that obviously can skew that, because you could get a pass where the guy throws it from their own 20, and if the foul occurs at, say, the opposition's 30-yard line, you've got, what? I can't even do that maths. 50 yards worth of penalty just in that one play.
Yeah.
So you can get large yardage on single plays and stuff like that. And it's not like a combination of your usual 10 yards here, 5 yards there, and stuff like that. 15 yards for a personal foul, things like that. So, but still, over 200 yards of penalties is absolutely ridiculous. That's it for the stats.
Something that's been absolutely everywhere over the last few days is I presume you've seen the stuff about the Chargers coach, just people calling for him to be swiftly removed, and him basically doing a press conference after the game and just making everything 10 times worse. I was saying to Leanne, I was like, they should fire him just for the press conference. But what are you doing? I'm not here to talk about the fans. All right, okay, because I can't imagine they matter at all. So yeah, there was a lot of memes going around as always. Something wrong in I was going to say San Diego, not San Diego anymore. Something wrong deep in the core of the Chargers. I think they were saying basically the only decent player on that team at this point in time is Justin Herbert, and he is not a happy boy.
No, I would certainly echo that. So that's week 11 done and dusted. So week 12 looms large on the horizon, and this is one of the better weeks of the season, isn't it? It's Thanksgiving week. So obviously the first 3 games all will take place on Thursday. For the first time this season we have a Black Friday game, which over here in the UK means that we'll get to see the Dolphins versus the Jets at a reasonable time on a Friday evening. So at 8 PM, the Dolphins-Jets game will kick off. So rather than having to wait till the wee hours of the morning, we'll be able to watch a game at a nice, reasonable time of the evening. Obviously, no guest, as you can see on the screen, but the stats mistress, whilst also providing us with the stats for this week, has stepped into the breach, so to speak, and has provided her picks for the games for the week. So we'll start. So, as we said, it's Thanksgiving Thursday, which means the Lions will be playing, as is the Thanksgiving custom. So the Packers at the Lions is our first game on Thanksgiving Thursday, and you'll all be shocked to hear that we've all taken the Lions to get the victory. That is the same case for the other Thanksgiving tradition, which is the Cowboys playing on Thanksgiving as well. They are at home to the Washington Commanders, and shockingly, we've all taken the Cowboys to get the win there. The third game of the Thanksgiving 3-game slot is the one that rotates on a yearly basis. This year they've gone for an interdivisional game between the 49ers and the Seahawks in Seattle, and shock horror, we've all taken the 49ers to get the win.
Yeah, we have.
For the very first Black Friday game, obviously, as we said, it is the Miami Dolphins at the New York Jets. It's another interdivisional game. which I've just noticed, all of the Thanksgiving and Black Friday games seem to be. I'm assuming that's a decision they took this season to keep it all sort of close, I would imagine. Shock horror, we've all taken the Dolphins to get the win in that one. Obviously, the Jets it's that sort of thing where obviously it's nice that they've got a couple of wins here and there, but they kind of should have just lost to just put the fans out of their misery again for a season. As soon as Rodgers went down, not good. So then we move to the Sunday slate of games, and we have the New Orleans Saints taking on the Atlanta Falcons. We've all backed the Saints to get the victory there. All these games are divisional until we get to one here. So we've all taken the Saints in the Saints Falcons game. The next game is our first game where we have a difference of opinion. So we have the Pittsburgh Steelers at the Cincinnati Bengals. Myself and Andy have backed the Steelers to get the win here, whereas Leanne has taken the Bengals. Now, I don't know if you...
I tried to give her another chance to pick that game again, and I did.
Well,
I even said the Joe Burrow's less 5-5 Bengals, and she.
Well, you say this, Andy, but obviously the Steelers played the Browns with a backup quarterback at the weekend and lost. So it's in Cincinnati. So I have picked the Steelers, but it's one of those ones where I wouldn't be surprised if the Bengals got a win there. Obviously, the Steelers today have sacked their offensive coordinator as well.
Yes, they have.
So, stranger things have happened, shall we say?
Yeah.
The next game on the list, we have the Jacksonville Jaguars at the Houston Texans. Me and Andy have both gone with the Jaguars on that one. Leanne has taken the Texans to get the win there. The next game is our first game that doesn't involve divisional rivals, as it's the Tampa Bay Buccaneers travelling to Indianapolis to take on the Colts. Split of opinion again. Andy has taken the Colts, whereas myself and Leanne have taken the Buccaneers to get the win there. Next up, it's the Patriots taking on the New York Giants in New York. Myself and Andy have taken the Giants. Leanne has gone for the Patriots to get only their second or third win of the season there. Bit of a surprise. I was like, are you sure about that? And she was like, yeah. I think she works on the whole, Belichick's never lost however many it is now in a row because that got broken, so... Did you hear the rumours Belichick to the Commanders? I hadn't heard that. I'd heard in the past though about the possibility of him potentially going to the Jets to finish what he started 20 odd years ago before he actually went and took the job at the Patriots.
Yeah, I mean that's always been...
There was always the chance that he would go back and be the Giants manager because he was an assistant at the Giants.
Yeah.
One last game in the 6 o'clock slot. Before we move to the late window, and that is the Los Angeles Rams. No, it's not. I tell a lie. It's the Carolina Panthers taking on the Tennessee Titans. Another one of the games probably to miss, as the Panthers are 1-9, the Titans are 3-7. Not one for the purists there. We have all taken the Titans to get the win there. I think home field advantage and the fact that the Panthers are just a bit desperate at the minute would point to that one. The start of the 9 o'clock slate of games sees the Rams at the Cardinals in another divisional matchup. Andy's the only one who's backed the Rams in this one, whereas myself and Leanne have taken the Cardinals. Obviously, Kyler's back in the starting lineup. He's playing games again. He got him looking competitive at the weekend. So I've gone for me and Leanne have both gone for the Cardinals to carry that on. We have the Cleveland Browns travelling to take on the apparently the form team in the NFL in the Denver Broncos. Who would have ever thought that was the possibility?
Yeah, I had to watch.
Five wins on the field.
I had to watch the game just to try and work out what is going on, and it was the same as last week. Russell Wilson's just like, well, if you guys aren't going to help me, I'll just do it myself, and seems to be doing that. It's like, okay.
Strange one. But yeah, we've all backed the Broncos to carry on that. I think obviously the Browns down to the bare bones. Obviously the defense is stacked, but offense was a little stunted on Sunday against the Steelers. So I would imagine that the Broncos probably should just have enough of that one. We've all backed the Chiefs to bounce back against the Raiders in Las Vegas. Up to a couple of weeks ago, I'd have said this next one was probably another one of those games where you'd say possibility of being a game of the season and a possible Super Bowl preview, where you've got the Buffalo Bills travelling to Philly to take on the Eagles. The Bills being 6-5, or is it 6-5 or is it 5-5? Let me just double check. 6-5. So the Bills being 6-5 has probably negated that somewhat, and it shows in the fact that we've all taken the Eagles to get the win there. 2 more games to go. The Sunday night football sees the Baltimore Ravens taking on the Los Angeles Chargers. Shock horror, we've all taken the Ravens on that one. Like you said earlier, Chargers, something's not clicking. I can't think of his first name. Herbert.
Justin
Herbert, thank you. Justin Herbert is trying to do it on his own. He's not really got anyone that he can go to on a regular basis. Even Austin Eckler was down on his usual performance levels on Sunday. Just a bit of a, unfortunately, probably going to go in the record books as a bit of a lost season for the Chargers. What could have been, really. And the Monday Night Football sees the Chicago Bears taking on the Minnesota Vikings, and we've all taken the Vikings to get the win in that one. No great surprise there. So obviously, because it's Thanksgiving week, no buys. All 16 games being played, all 32 teams are in play. No same results across the board, so no need for any tiebreakers or anything like that. Obviously, tune back in next week where we'll go through the results and who has got the win for the week, either myself, Mr. Cook, or the stats of the mistress herself. That's the regular season. That's the regular games gone through. All that's left to do is for myself and Andy to pick our 4 games each for the side bet. But before we do that, we're just going to step away, compose ourselves, and we'll come back at you with our side bet selections. Don't touch that dial. We'll be right back, ladies and gentlemen.
Recording in progress.
Yes. The recording is indeed back underway. So, as we said, the Week 12 game picks are in the books. That just leaves us with the arduous task of picking our 4 side bets for the week. Obviously, Mr. Cook is still behind in the overall race. So, again, I will let him either choose first or have me select my first game in front of him. How would you like to play it this week, Mr. Cook?
I'm going to take the first pick this week. Largely because I've looked through and there's a lot of I think that game's going to go that way, but it might not. So because of that, I've decided to take the Miami Dolphins to beat the New York Jets as my first pick.
It's a nice, solid start. I will continue that solid start by going for the very first game of the week. I will take the Detroit Lions to best the Green Bay Packers. Now, obviously that might look like a bit of a potentially risky one, obviously as it's divisional rival, on Thanksgiving, the world watching, but the Lions have looked strong all season, apart from that game where they got a bit of a whooping by the Ravens. But other than that, I think they've looked very strong this season. So I'm pretty confident with the Lions getting the job done.
Yeah, I'd have had a slice of that if it had still been there.
Keeping on a similar theme, I'm going to stick my second pick as the next game in the slot, and I'm going to go straight. I'm going to roll that Lions victory onto a Dallas Cowboys victory, hopefully, with them taking on the Washington Commanders on Thanksgiving as well. So Lions Cowboys are my first two picks. Your next two selections, please, Mr. Cook.
I would take the Kansas City Chiefs to beat the Las Vegas Raiders.
Yep.
I'll take the Baltimore Ravens to beat the Los Angeles Chargers.
I maybe would have left the Ravens till one of the sort of last couple of picks. I think there are a couple more out there that might be a little bit more safe. But yeah, I'd have certainly been looking at the Chiefs. I will go for the San Francisco 49ers. I'm just all about Thanksgiving, clearly. What do I want as my last game? Ooh. I'm saying about the Ravens being a pick that I'd have probably left till the end. But now that I'm looking at it, there's not that many that are that cut and dry. I'll go with the Titans because they're playing against the Panthers. But I'm not gonna lie, I don't really like it because earlier in the season the Panthers got their one and only win against the Texans, and I would very much put the Titans in the bracket of they're probably one of those teams that you could sort of see the Panthers beating, and no one would probably bat an eyelid if that was the case. Just your final selection to round us out then, Mr. Cook.
There's not a lot of meat left on the bone, and what is left is very, very dubious. So I'm going to have to roll the dice on this one and take the Minnesota Vikings to beat the Chicago Bears. Part of that is from a numbers perspective. The Vikings have got a higher number of wins, whereas the Bears haven't. And I think, touch wood, even with that quick change at quarterback, the Vikings seem to be sort of getting locked in. So I think that might be a okay pick.
Yeah. So there you go. So the side bet for week 12, the four selections for Mr. Cook are the Miami Dolphins at the New York Jets, the Kansas City Chiefs at the Las Vegas Raiders, the Baltimore Ravens at the Los Angeles Chargers, and the Minnesota Vikings at home to the Chicago Bears, whereas I have taken the Detroit Lions at home to the Green Bay Packers, the Dallas Cowboys at home to the Washington Commanders, the 49ers at the Seattle Seahawks, those ones are all on Thanksgiving Thursday, and the Tennessee Titans at home to the Carolina Panthers. That's week 12 all predicted up, all side betted up, all done and dusted. What I thought we'd just have a brief chat about before we end is the fact that it's Thanksgiving Thursday. All of our American brethren will be no doubt sitting down to a delicious turkey dinner with all the trimmings, all the cornbread, all the, sweet potato casserole and green beans and whatnot. So I just wondered if there was obviously over here it doesn't start until the evening. I think the first game starts at around 5:30. Do you do anything in particular? Do you put a bit of a spread on for Thanksgiving, or do you sort of let it just go by the wayside?
So previously we've done full-blown Thanksgiving. Invited our American friend, got them to bring a selection of delicious treats and gone all out. Like done the true spread rather than a sit-down meal, just like kind of more of a buffet style, but more traditional. Fired out the old pumpkin pie, which I think up till that year I'd never had, and then was like, I need to be in this. It's delicious. So we've done that way before. We've done, hey, let's all get together. Let's order some delicious takeaway and get stuck into the games. But it fluctuates each year. I think the plan this year is we always do that. Oh, we should get a takeaway, knowing full well that neither of us are going to cave on the takeaway ban. So it's like, oh, we'll just have a salad. But it's very much we're all about the football for the Thanksgiving. So unfortunately, in some ways, the food has fallen by the wayside. I imagine there'll be something ever so slightly different to normal, but what, I can't tell you at this point in time. We've had about 15 different conversations ranging from all out Thanksgiving, takeaway, let's not bother. I don't know where it's going to land, and obviously it's 2 days away, so I think we can probably work that one out. But I know you always like to get a spread going.
Yeah, it's changed over the years. Like, so it used to obviously be that we'd do the whole get the. It depends obviously because it used to be more people would get involved. Like it used to be that we'd go to a friend's house and there was about 10 or 12 of us would all descend there. We'd do like a big roast. I usually try to throw in something that had never been done before, like a little sort of like a side dish that obviously we don't have over here. So yams was the usual one. So that obviously your baked sweet potato with a little bit of like candied marshmallows and stuff on the top. That happened one year. I did some sort of Jack Daniels glazed baked sweet potatoes at one point, and that was pretty good. But a lot of those people have now moved away. Some to actually different countries. So we're obviously not able to do the same thing anymore. So just a smaller group of us now, and I think this year we're just going to go back to the sort of like the basics, like maybe get a different like sort of meat or two, and then just have a little sort of smaller like roast in it. I might have a go at doing some bits to go with it that are a bit more sort of American-y. But one idea I did sort of throw out that kind of got shot down was that we based the food around the teams that were playing. So obviously, the first game, obviously, you've got Green Bay versus Detroit. So the only thing I could think would be
cheese.
Something to do with like cheese for the Packers, and then for Detroit, you obviously get like Detroit style pizza.
Yeah.
But I've had Detroit style pizza in the past, and I'm not a fan.
It's not up there. Isn't
an awful lot of bread?
Isn't Detroit where Eminem's restaurant is?
Quite possibly.
So you could do spaghetti. Just it's probably a bit of a long shot on that one, but yeah,
could do some mom's spaghetti and then just grate some cheese on the top, and that's your first game done and dusted.
Yeah, job done.
Obviously, the next game of the Washington Commanders versus the Dallas Cowboys. Now, I can't think of a single thing that Washington is famous for.
No. So
that'd all be on the Dallas and obviously the barbecue.
Barbecue, absolutely.
So that'd be fine. Slightly more challenging when it comes to the last game. Obviously, you've got San Francisco 49ers versus the Seattle Seahawks. Now, I don't think Seattle's famous for a particular type of cuisine. Although, to be fair, obviously Seattle is the home of Starbucks. And with the game taking place at 1:20 a.m, coffee would probably be the first thing on my mind at that point anyway. So that could be the Seattle element of it. And San Francisco... There's probably some sort of sweets that's from there or something like that. So
it'd probably have to be something fish based because it's Bay Area, isn't it?
Yeah, I suppose that would work.
Speaking of fish-based, Washington's sort of most popular is crab. So crab cakes is a speciality from Washington that features the succulent meat of crab, a crustacean inhabiting the waters of the Pacific Ocean and the west coast of North America. So you could maybe tie the two together.
That's Washington State, though. So that's more like Seattle, Washington.
Yeah.
Whereas the Commanders is like DC. So I suppose technically it's Maryland.
Oh, so you could go with avocado toast.
Oh, T. Brizzle's favourite.
Because that's Washington DC.
Yeah, I was going to say I know that there's a famous restaurant in Baltimore called Jimmy's Famous Seafood, and that's obviously Maryland. So you could get away with it by doing something like that, some sort of seafood like clam bake or some sort of like you say crab cakes. Like that, so. But yeah, this evening we won't be going all out. We'll probably do some sort of roast, and I'll probably have a go at making cornbread because I try to make cornbread at least once a year. So.
Yeah, I've been trying to get the old roast game down for the back end of the year. I've been doing it in stages. I need to fire up the roast potatoes at some point just to make sure that they're on point. Because I've thrown out the Yorkshire puddings a few times this year so far, and they seem to be still pretty good. So
nice. Obviously, we'll be tuning in at some point to see who gets the turkey leg at the end of the game, gets biting into that on the camera and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But yes, get in touch. Let us know what your particular Thanksgiving favourites are, and anything you think we should try, and maybe try and get as a bit of a staple over here. I'd certainly be well up for hearing and giving stuff a try.
Yeah, absolutely.
That brings us to the end, ladies and gentlemen, of Week 11's Week 11's roundup and Week 12's look forward predictions. All I have to do is obviously thank Mr. Cook for joining me once again to take you through the goings on, ins and outs and whatnot of the NFL, and to wish all of our American listeners and watchers a very happy Thanksgiving. Absolutely. And anyone who celebrates from around the world. Hope you have a lovely time. Hope you enjoy some delicious football alongside some delicious food. And join us again next week where the podcast will look a little different as I won't be here. I'm otherwise indisposed, sadly, so we'll be able to make it next week. But
I've turned a guest into a host. That's my superpower. So yes, stuff. I've said to the guest, you don't mind picking up the hosting duties instead of guesting, do you? Or both? And they're like, whatever. So yeah, be interesting.
Tune in next week and let us know that it's infinitely about 8 times better than it would be if I was hosting. There you go. Thanks again, and we'll see you in about a week's time. Tatty bye.
Tatty bye.
So there we go. What do you think to that? Another one done, another one gone, another week of games gone, another week of games to look forward to. Big thank you for joining us. Big thank you for watching and or listening. Before you go, please do consider like, share, subscribe and comment. Leave a review where you can leave a review. Check out the website, thecookiecast.com. There we've got social media links and an email button, and that way you can get in touch with us. That's it for this one. Till next time, I'm going to say bye, and I'll see you then.
How awesome is that? So awesome. You got to like, share and subscribe.